All right, Nigeria's electricity industry is highly dependent on natural gas, which accounts for over 80% of electricity supply to the national grid. It is expected that natural gas will continue to be relevant in Nigeria's energy mix for many years to come. Given the country's proven gas reserves over 203 trillion cubic feet and the commitment to the federal government of Nigeria as articulated in the national gas policy to leverage Nigeria's huge gas portfolio to drive industrial development, Nigeria's installed generating capacity at approximately 12,000 megawatts is far below its energy demand requirements. And as such, a significant proportion of consumers rely on petroleum products such as premium motor spirit and diesel for alternative electricity supply. While the federal government is currently pushing for full implementation of its auto gas initiative to make Nigerians use gas for their cars, the country is producing less than 5,000 megawatts of electricity for its teeming population, owing to limitation from low gas supply to power plants. In lieu of this, federal government recently reduced the price of gas to power from $2.50 to $2.18 so as to deliver sustainable power for the country. Well, I introduced him earlier. He is the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of Sendiri Power Generation Limited. He's Dr. Chukweloka Ume. Good afternoon, Dr. Ume. It's good to see you. Good afternoon, Dr. Ume. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon, Tolu. Always a pleasure to be.
Yep. Let's start with government directive. Price of gas should be reduced from $2.50 to $2.18. In clear terms, as Nigerians, all we just want to see is the price of maybe LPG or for all other types of gas being reduced with this. But explain to us what this means and what it actually means for the entire sector.
Well, Tolu, it sounds nice on paper, that the gas price has been reduced, but keep this in mind. The gas price that's being reduced is the domestic supply obligation gas. And only a few of the plants in Nigeria actually get to use this DSO gas. So in the grand scheme of things, we haven't really done much. I'll give you an example. Azura Edo Power plant, for example, which is still the only project financed IPP that's been built in Nigeria for many years, uses gas that is bought on a willing buyer, willing seller type of deal. So this DSO price means nothing to them. You understand? So at the end of the day, only a few power plants will get to benefit from this DSO pricing. And if we step aside for a second and don't think about gas price for a second, we buy gas, we pay in dollars. We make revenue in naira. We change that naira to dollars to pay back loans that were taken in dollars. So effectively, we haven't really done much to help the power sector. The real conversation we should be having should be, where are the pain points for the power plant owners? Where are the pain points for the people running the discos and for the TCN? That's the real question. And then what do we need to do as a country to help gas producers and gas transporters to produce more and to transport more? These are the real questions.
I also see that our gas reserves, as at the last time DPR was saying, I think it's even more than 200 million standard cubic feet. I'm sure as a professional you get that better than I would do. I'm just a journalist. And even more than what we have with regards to crude that has been the mainstay of our economy. Now, do we have that infrastructure to harness the potential of these gas reserves with regards looking at gas to power?
Well, Nigeria has Africa's largest gas reserves, right? And 200 trillion cubic feet is a lot of gas. We have a lot of gas to produce power to run the entire country for many years to come. That's what this means, if we're actually using that gas in country. However, the reality is our infrastructure in the country is still very substandard. Producing a lot of the gas that we produce today goes to LNG. We export this gas, Some of it is flared. We're still flaring gas, even though the government is doing the right thing in creating regulation to stop gas flaring. Some of the gas is reinjected into the wells to produce more oil. So a small fraction, about 20% of the gas, is used locally. Now, out of that 20%, part of it goes to power plants. Part goes to industries that do things like producing fertilizer or things like of that nature. So the fraction of gas that we use to generate electricity is really, really small, and our infrastructure is way behind. So a lot of investment still needs to be made in the country, all at every level, to be able to produce more gas.
Now, moving on, now we see that there should be a lot of conversation around deepening and improving usage of gas at this time. And our government also talked about the decade of gas. At the end, SPE meeting, that's the Society of Petroleum Engineers, ongoing. I think the conference is still ongoing. It was also discussed there, energy transition, how we move away from PMS and all of this. But at the moment, the last time I even bought LPG personally, the price is up at about 25-30%, if not even up to 50% at the moment. And there is planned full deregulation of the downstream. Do you think gas can take the place of PMS if this is done?
No, we're not ready to have gas take the place of PMS. I mean, gas can be a contributor to what we do. I mean, every home in Nigeria should be able to access gas. You know, we should have a proper gas network across the country. So if you're building a new house, you should have a pipeline that comes into your house that carries gas for cooking, if you don't want to use electricity or kerosene or other means of cooking. However, until we have a proper gas network in the country, it's not going to happen. Until we have a proper look at the infrastructure to produce non-associated gas. So we should drill wells to produce gas, period, not to drill wells to produce oil. And oh, by the way, scrape off the gas from the oil, which is called associated gas. Okay? Until we do that, we're not going to see a serious shift in the gas use in this country. And besides, Tolu, if we do not start treating the gas industry as a real business that is not hamstrung by government regulations, that is not hamstrung by red tape, bureaucracy, we're not going to see any real movement in this industry. You talked about LPG. That's only one part of this story. We need to stop and think about this. About 4% of our income in this country comes from other things other than oil and gas in the country. And the reason this happens is because we are not producing enough electricity for people to actually do any real manufacturing in the country. Even farmers are not spared for this. Farmers produce a lot of goods, but they can't even process the goods in country. We export raw materials. Sometimes we export raw food. They are processed and sent back to the country. So we need to go back and fix the power industry. Having conferences is all well and good. However, it's always more of the same. We go to these conferences, we say nice things, we know the things that need to be done. I've seen some of the extracts of the conference, and they're very good. The guys are asking very real questions. They're making very good suggestions. But at the end of the day, how do we take those suggestions? How do we take those policies and implement them? You still find that contracts that are written across several sectors that include power, gas, don't get respected. The progress that we make every year is so slow that you might as well be sitting on a snail's back. So we can keep talking about this, and we're not really going to see much progress until we take a different approach to doing things. We need less talk and more action.
Less talk and more action. And this action, can we talk a little about this action? What sort of discussions should we be having at this point if we are to really, if we want to toe this line of moving away or shifting focus away from PMS or from just deregulating that sector?
This is a very good point. How long has it taken us to get a PIB, a petroleum industry bill? It's taken many years, right?
Yes, it is.
And we privatized the power industry back in 2011, 2013, thereabouts. Where are we now? Have we completed the privatization? The answer is no. Many companies signed up to get a power purchase agreement from NBET. Where are they today? None has built a plant except Azura Edo power plant. So we need to get serious about, if we agree on a path in the country, and we have all these consultants coming from different countries, including the ones in Nigeria. We pay them a lot of money. They come up with very nice roadmaps that we should take as a country. We need to stay on those roadmaps. Okay, we should stop changing the rules of the game down the road. Okay, that's one. Number two, we need to stop scaring away investors. Whenever we continue to change policies, whenever we continue to show that we don't respect contracts, whenever we show that the country is unsafe, the thing that's happening to our foreign exchange market, these things scare away investors, and we need investors here. Now, the folks that have also invested are being beaten today. When some people made investments in the power industry 5-6 years ago, dollar was, 200 naira to the dollar. Today, it's over 500 naira. That investment is already upside down. So we need to be serious about setting a playing field where investors can come in, put in their money, and know that there's security around the investment that they've made, that will actually make their money back so they can pay their loans back. Okay, these are some of the things that we need to be talking about. Creating policies is all well and good, but when we create them, we need to stay the course. And Tolu, we keep having the same conversation.
I understand.
As an investor, I sit sometimes and I discuss with my finance team, and sometimes you don't even know what to say anymore. Your financial model keeps getting changed. You keep tweaking the financial model to see if your investments will make sense. You sign a contract with a potential client today. Yeah. 6 months from now, you have to go back and tweak it. Yeah. Because the country is different. So these are some of the real problems. Big
issue there. But back to privatization, which you touched on for some years now. But one way or the other, we're still generating less than 5,000 megawatts to power a country of more than 200 million persons. Now, it's more than a two-in-one question. What really is the problem? Yes, issues around contracts, honoring contractual agreements and all of that. But I don't think we really did wrong in privatization. What is now this issue of debt? Because the debt now seems to be across all aspects of the value chain, from generation to transmission, and what's of is even distribution. How can we get all of this sorted?
I think the government did the right thing in privatizing the sector. I will always give the government kudos for having the courage to privatize the power industry. But I encourage them to complete the privatization. Complete it, meaning remove the government's hands from the sector entirely. The government should own zero stake in the power industry, and that's across the entire value chain, all the way from producing the fuel to distributing the power. They should remove their hands. So complete privatization for the power plants, for the GENCOs, for the DISCOs, privatize the Transmission Company of Nigeria, and also create a system where private companies can produce gas and sell the gas at a willing buyer, willing seller type rates and under the same kind of contract. And I'll tell you why this is important. Take Azura. I keep going back to Azura because this is a power plant that was created with very good policies, and if done right, we can create more. I know some people will argue that the price of Azura was very expensive. It's expensive because of the terrain that we find ourselves in. But think about this for a second. Azura has a gas supply agreement with Seplat. Seplat constantly supplies gas to Azura, not because they really love Azura or because the government says they have to, but because the contract states that if Seplat fails in supplying gas, there are penalties to be paid. That's one. If the pipeline that brings the gas to Azura has a problem, someone is going to pay a penalty. So contracts make things work. So if the government were to complete the privatization entirely and allow the different parts of the value chain to deal with each other under willing buyer, willing seller type agreements, and have these contracts that these guys go into respected, we will start to see a change in the power sector. If we don't do this, again, Tolu, it will never work. We will always still revolve around 5,000 megawatts, no matter how much money the government throws at it. I know the government is trying to do the right thing by injecting more money into the sector, but I believe that this is money wasted. We should use this money and do other things. In Genco is relatively well understood. Allow the Gencos to buy their gas at whatever price incentivizes the suppliers to produce the gas and sell. I mean, think about this DSO for a second. You're forcing people to sell gas, not at $2.50 anymore, but $2.18. Those companies that you're asking to sell the gas at that price have to pay a price to produce the gas. Whether it's non-associated gas or associated gas, they have to pay money to produce that gas, right? Yeah. And then have to sell the gas to make a profit. So you're forcing them to sell at a lower price, and they're already complaining. Guess what? They have no incentive to produce. They're going to tell you, we're looking at it. And this is the language we hear from different gas suppliers. Okay? We're looking at it, and they're going to continue to look at it. The gas will not really be available. However, if you allow those people to produce the gas at whatever price they need to and sell it, or have the government focus on getting money in the pockets of private citizens, creating an environment for the private citizens to create businesses, small businesses, medium business, large businesses, they will in turn be able to buy power from the Gencos, supplied by the discos, of course delivered by TCN, and money goes round to everyone. So even if gas price is $7 per a million score, the Genco will be able to buy. The people at the end of the value chain, who are the consumers, will be able to buy that power at whatever the tariff comes out to be, because they are also making money. The people buying these finished goods will be able to afford those goods. This has happened in China. We've seen it happen in China. It's happened in Vietnam. It can also happen in Nigeria if we have the political courage to see it through. We should not play politics with the power industry, because if you do, you are invariably playing politics with people's lives and people's income. And you see what's happening to the country. This is the...
Yeah, can you hear me, Dr. Ome?
I can hear you.
Okay, let's wrap up on this note. I'm thinking, how soon or how well can we really make sure or get Nigerians metered, so that issue on the side of customers and the discos, there will also be a headway?
Well, again, metering should not be driven by the government. Metering should be driven by the distribution companies. At the end of the day, it's a business. You know, the distribution companies should want to know how much each consumer is taking and ensure that the consumer is paying for what they're taking. Okay? So the incentive should be that if a customer doesn't have a meter, they don't get electricity. And if they try to steal the electricity by bypassing meters or doing whatever, they should be fined heavily so that they are incentivized to have meters so that they can pay for what they use. In the same vein, distribution companies should be compelled to make sure that every customer they sell power to should buy that power through meters so that they are paying for what they're using. Estimated metering doesn't really work for the benefit of the consumers, or in the long run for the benefit of the discos. So we should allow the discos to do this themselves, not forced by the government. Now, when is it going to happen? I'll throw that question back to you. When are we going to have the policy that allows the discos to buy these meters, sell them to people, recover their money over time, so that people pay for what they're getting?
All right, we'll monitor that, and we'll definitely let Nigerians know, even with the present scheme on ground. I must thank you so much for your time. Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of Century Power Generation Limited, Dr. Chukwueloka Ume. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Tolu. I wish you the same.
All right, there.